Good evening, campers. I hope you're going well. Andy here, the professional human. A very, very warm welcome to this very chilly Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday in Melbourne. It's bloody cold down here. I thought it was supposed to be spring, for God's sake. I know, right? The pom in me comes out around this time because when you spend a quarter of a century being in a cold, the last thing that you want is to spend any more time in the cold, right? So, you know, can you just start warming up, please, Melbourne? I mean, come on. We're putting up with pandemics and lockdowns and earthquakes now and all this sort of jazz. Can we just have a little bit of warm weather, please? Be nice. Anyway, team, I hope you're going well. Thanks ever so much for tuning in advance. This session has been inspired. I'm going to say it has been inspired by a friend slash colleague of mine who I busted, perhaps doing something that she should not have been doing. But I won't name names. So, team, this one could get a little bit D&M. It could get a little bit D&M. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. See where it goes. I mean, gang, this thing is completely spontaneous, right? I have no agenda by doing this. Maybe I should, right? Maybe I should, and then maybe I can start getting paid more or something. I'm not sure, but team, this is just hopefully going to be an open conversation about a topic that I am becoming quite acutely aware of with respect to some habits that have been created by potentially external forces, but are causing major problems from a personal point of view. Team, Mickey Wood, I was waiting for him to come back. Man, you've made my night. Team, thoughts on the earthquake? You know what? I actually got a little bit of a complex first and foremost because I thought, well, you know what? Shit, I know I've put on a bit of weight and I've got some of the old COVID kilos going on, but I think Mother Nature taking the piss is a little bit too far, right? So that was my first thought. I was like, fucking hell, I'm not that fat. But anyway, and then the second thought that came to mind was that, you know what? I really, really, really hope. I genuinely feel like I'm a massively logical person, right? I'm tremendously practical, but there are some things that you just wonder about, right? You just some forces that you just wonder about. And for me, I kind of hope that what this earthquake has done is maybe shocked some people into realizing that there are greater forces in the world. There's greater things to be focused on, right? And maybe we should just stop fucking about and crack on with cracking on in Melbourne, in Australia, in the world, maybe, right? I don't know. So, that's my take on the earthquake. Michael, you don't want my Arsenal prediction, mate. I can tell you that for him for nothing. Anyway, team, first things first, I want to thank Anywhere Auctions for coming on board and being a part of the Professional Human series. I really appreciate it. It is a phenomenal platform, gang. So please be aware. I don't get paid to do this. I just think that they're a great crew and they've got a great product that we're all going to need, not just now, but I think we're going to need it permanently from a future-proofing point of view in our businesses. So thanks to Gary, Rangan, and the gang there. More importantly, team, how are we going? Out of 10, write your scores on the doors in the comment section below for us, please. We've got Maxine at a very strong 9 out of 10. Good to see. Bo, nice to see you here, man. Paul, thank you for that. Give us some scores on the doors, gang. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know how you're getting on. Let me know how you are crack-a-lacking this Wednesday night. How has your week served you so far? How you're looking for the rest of the week, and maybe have a think about, once you've scored yourself, maybe have a think about how you can maybe give yourself an extra couple of wins before the week is out. Paul Dowman, a strong 9 out of 10. Good to see that, sir. Robin Adair, so wonderful to see you as always, my dear. 10 out of 10, and I understand why. Big tip of the cap to Robin in the tremendous work that she's done with Box and Dice. And the amalgamation with a tremendously huge platform in the US, which is just going to send them to the moon. I really, really do think it does. And Robin played a huge part in that. So if you don't know Robin, get to know her, because aside from else, she's a top chick, and she calls a spade a spade. I fucking love that, especially in women who feel that they don't have to play the stereotype, or they don't have to wait their turn. Robin very much smashes through stereotypes in that regard. I've got a tremendous amount of respect for her. So, team, let us crack on with the topic that, like I mentioned, has been inspired by a colleague of mine who is, or I think is, she might think otherwise, right? She might completely disagree with this, but I believe we're rapidly becoming pretty cool friends as well. The blame game. This blame game, right? Because let's be honest, campers, we have had a lot of reasons to have a bit of a whinge, right? We've had plenty of things go on out of our control that have absolutely stopped us in our tracks, caused us dramas, created massive, issues and concerns financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, you name it, it's caused it. Let's not beat around the bush with that, right? I'm not saying that I'm not making an insignificance of the things that have gone on that have caused major issues. But what my big concern is that we've had what is it, 18 months now to be used to all of this turmoil, this topsy-turvy stuff. I appreciate that for a lot of businesses, for a lot of trade, for a lot of people, they've got to the end of their tether, like whether it is financially or something like that sort of thing. Don't forget haircuts. Yes, absolutely. Those of us that are struggling from a haircut point of view, all those first world problems, they are the things, right? I'm concerned that because the world has given us plenty of excuses to have a real good bitch and a moan, that we've allowed it to percolate into our personal lives, into things that we can control, right? That we can control. Things that we know, and that, before all this sort of shit, we had either in control, or we had some clarity around why we had disciplines around certain things in our lives, be it, vices or habits, or, it could be people that we've been avoiding, that we've just gone, what, bollocks to it. I'm going to, do whatever with whoever and all that sort of stuff. And to a degree, I think, and I've been one for this, I've been a big fan and advocate of allowing ourselves that space to breathe, allowing ourselves right now to, or, over this journey, just give ourselves a bit of space, right? To understand that and appreciate that we are human beings, right? I get, that I'm completely attuned to and aware of, very much so. However, the reason why I'm bringing this to light in a very public sense, and I brought this to light to a few people, is that I do strongly believe that in some cases we've now just got into this rather dangerous, toxic habit of using external things and using sort of external reasoning, however tenuous it may be, to just do stuff that is blatantly not the right thing or not a cool thing for us. In the short meaning, look, it might give you a short little fix, but not even long term, medium term, this is a pretty fucked up thing that you're doing, either for yourself, to yourself, by yourself, with someone else, who whatever it is, right? It's not cool, and it's not cool, and you're just finding some real tenuous reason to blame it on Dan Andrews or Gladys or Bats or Wuhan or whatever it is. You're going, right, what excuse can I find to do something that I know is bollocks, but I'm gonna find that excuse to get it done, and go crack on. Now, for me, and I'll talk to my own personal experience around this. For me, I gave myself permission, and this is not going to sound great. I gave myself permission to be a fat bastard, right? I I used to be really bad at self-criticizing myself. When I was doing things that I knew went against the sort of my physical fitness side of things, right? And normally, and it's always around eating essentially. And I gave myself permission, especially after all of the shit that went on last year and all that sort of stuff, to just not give a fuck. If I wanted to eat something, I ate it. If I wanted an ice cream, I had it. If I wanted a bicky from the pantry, I consumed five, right? And I didn't have a problem with it. It was probably the first time in my life where I actually acknowledged that I am a human being and I am allowed to be a human being, more to the point, every now and then. But it's been a long time since a lot of this shit's been going on, right? It has. Let's be honest, it has. And one quote that I want to bring to everybody's attention is from the late, great Jim Rohn. Now, whenever I say Jim Rohn, I always say Rick Rushton, because of the fact that he is a personal friend and mentor of mine. I've got, he's just one of the human beings that I'll always admire. It was him that brought me to Jim Rohn's attention, or him that brought Jim Rohn to my attention, having had Jim Rohn as a mentor of his. And the quote that really springs to mind around this from Jimmy Rohn is, if you really want something, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And this is the crux of what I want to talk about tonight, team, because as we start to get ourselves out of all the shit and the drama and the carry on, one thing that I want to ask is, when you reflect on this period of time, how much of the things that you are doing are things that you are going to be cool with because you're human and you're allowed to be human? And how much of it are you actually going to regret? Whether it's action that you know you shouldn't have taken, but you found that tenuous excuse, or inaction brought through apathy that has been brought through. And this is understandable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you're a prick for doing it. It's understandable that, if you've been locked away in your houses, the monotony will hammer you down at one point or another, right? I get that. But how much of it, I think we need to really start thinking about this, right? We need to start looking at what's going on in the rearview mirror and understanding what we've been through, and start to really utilize and learn the lessons and the things that we can take from it moving forward. Like, I don't know about you, man, and I've mentioned this in a couple of posts, right? But I'm bored of fucking whinging. I'm bored of hearing whinging. I'm bored of listening to whinging. I'm bored of seeing whinging, right? Across my Facebook feeds and all that sort of shit. And surely there's so many more like me who just want to crack on, right? So in order for us to crack on, we need to start looking at and taking from, and I know that this is being done in a sort of trendy, businessy kind of way, right? What lessons have you learned from COVID that you're going to implement in your business? And tra-la-la-la-la, give me some money for a cheap course. And I'm talking about life now, gang. I'm talking about life. What are the things that we can look back on through this period and either be proud of, be not so proud of, and things that we know we should have done, but we also understand that it's not too late to make shit happen, right? Because this is pretty critical. Now let's take booze, for example, right? Now, I'm not going to be a martyr about it just because I don't drink, right, or anything. I'm not going to be a fucking martyr about it. And I know that there's lots and lots of jokes and I don't know if joviality, I don't even know if that's a word, and lots of joking around about you know, drinking more grog and having more wine and all that sort of stuff, right? But we've got to start having to become more aware that shit is about to start getting a bit more normal again. And do we perhaps need to start realigning ourselves with what our dreams and ambitions were before our worlds got shook up by all of this shit that's gone on? I think it's a really important thing that we need to start bringing into the vernacular within our social groups and communities and families and all this sort of stuff, because we've been conditioned. It's like the boiled frog. I've heard it. I've heard this come out. I've seen this come out. That boiled frog analogy. You put a frog into a pot of cold water and then you slowly heat it up. It will cook itself. It will happily sit there and get cooked, right? Or that other sort of experiment that's very very common knowledge, which is you put some insects and whatnot into a jar. If you leave that jar open, they'll find a way out. But if you close that lid for a little while and then open it, they will have been conditioned to stay in that jar, right? We effectively have been jarred and closed into our own homes, our own sort of heads, you know, and we've got to become very, very aware that we need to start working our way back out of those jars and into the game at scale, right? Into the game of life as we want it to be. Because, yeah, there's going to be certain parameters and conditions and all the rest of it kicking around. But you know, let's be very, very upfront about this. Fiscally, financially, it's never going to be forever. Nothing like this is ever forever. The Second World War, for fuck's sake, wasn't forever. Now, if you'd have asked someone at the start of 1940, right, if this was going to be forever, chances are a bunch of them would have felt like it was going to be forever. Yeah. But at the end of the day, everything comes to an end at some point. Now we need to make a decision with ourselves. Dave, so good to see you, mate. Jen, great to see you too. We need to make a decision around this in our own minds, in our lives, and we need to start really focusing back on controlling the controllables. Now, let's go back to my fitness thing, right? So I gave myself permission to become a fat bastard, and I did a very good job of it. Thank you very much. And now, like, I've gone through a bit of an evolution in my mind, in my wiring, and so all that sort of stuff that comes with a drop in mental health form. And it happens every now and then. I'm not asking for anyone to pick up a violin in any way, shape, or form, so don't try. And part of my evolution around that, and this is something that I'm actually going to talk about in the PM Revive conference, right? Is we've one big thing that should have come to your attention, it might not have been, but it could have come to your attention, is that with everything that's gone on over the last 15 to 18 months, one thing that's become abundantly clear to me, and it's something that I've been really digging into, is how ridiculously desperate we are for external validation. How much we as a society, we as a real estate or business community have become so ridiculously, sickeningly reliant on external validation in order for us to feel like we've made any sort of progress. It's the biggest crock of shit known to man. And the problem is we've all fallen into that trap in one way, shape, or form. You could call it vanity metrics, but I want to dig into something that, from a common sort of conversation construct, particularly in business sense, is, and definitely in a real estate sense, is our conversation around goals. Because for a long time, and I've gone to God knows how many fucking business conferences and sessions and all this sort of stuff, where we're taught to set goals so that we've got something to achieve and something to drive us, something to get us going, get us out of bed, and blah, 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 blah. The problem with that is when you get, and comes from a quote, an amazing quote from Alan Watts, who is a British philosopher who I would highly encourage you to have a bit of a dig into. And I'll put it into my own language. What's the fucking point in always trying to get there, right? What's the fucking point if you're not content, if you're not fulfilled where you are in a current moment? What's the fucking point in getting there, right? Because effectively, by the time you get there becomes here. Ergo, therefore, does there ever actually exist? Does it even exist? Is it ever achievable? Because whenever you set a there target, by the time you get there, you are in fact here. So does there even exist? Now, and I know that sounds a little bit philosophical for 9 whatever it is on a Wednesday evening, especially when it's coming from a guy with a dodgy accent, but what I really want to sort of bring to everybody's attention is the fact that we really should, instead of setting goals in order to give ourselves things to strive for, achieve, blah, 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 we really should be looking at our own personal construct, our own personal, value proposition, and actually find the combination within that gets us to be driven to do the shit that we either want to or need to do anyway. Because and I've got a buzzer. I keep forgetting to bring a buzzer. Every time I'm going to say the word COVID, I'm going to hit a buzzer from the next show onwards, or if anyone else says COVID. But what COVID has taught us is the fact that if you're not, and this quote comes from that other amazing philosophical piece called Cool Runnings, the Disney film starring John Candy, where John Candy got busted for cheating in the bobsledding, had his gold medal stripped from him, and then the lead guy, Yul Brynner, asks him about the whole cheating thing, and John Candy turns around and says, if you're not enough with them, i.e. the gold medals, if you're not enough with without the gold medals, if you're not enough without them, you're never going to be enough with them. And that's massive, right? Because if you're not enough for yourself without all those goals and the fucking Lambos, or, if it's a material thing or whatever the case may be, you're never really going to be enough with them. You'll always have that sense of dissatisfaction, that sense of, you'll get that temporary motivational fix when you get there, but then there'll always be that little degree of emptiness. That's significant, right? And because we've had ourselves stopped in our tracks, very few of us have had the opportunity to go get our goals, which has made us look in the mirror way more deeply than what we perhaps have been comfortable with. So, what do you think about that, gang? Because the person that really sort of inspired this episode tonight, because I was going to talk about something completely different. The person that inspired this episode, the reason that she gave me for giving into a vice of hers was boredom. Now, if you're bored within yourself, when you are forced to be by yourself, then potentially there could be some room there whereby we could perhaps do a bit of self-discovery to find something within ourselves, about ourselves, that could potentially inspire a fire within, so that we don't need external influence or motivation or stimulation in order to feel content in our own skin. Maybe. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, for fuck's sake. But I don't think I am. I actually think and feel quite strongly that things like goals, I mean, for one, I personally believe that in a business sense, a lot of coaches and trainers and what I'm going to call them out now, a lot of business coaches, trainers, real estate coaches, trainers that sort of hang their hat on goal setting and all this sort of stuff without having real true context around it, is doing it to make themselves money. They're not actually doing it to better anybody. Because I think that the whole concept of goals has been bastardized in order for other people to make money from the weak and from the, not from the weak, but from the people that have unwittingly, unknowingly become so addicted to that external validation, right? I bet some of you didn't realize that I actually sometimes think a little bit deeper than what you see. Believe it or not, it happens on occasion. And I think this is a huge thing because for me now, so I wrote an article last year, a blog about your goals being your lighthouse. And then consequently, I've spent this year proving it wrong to myself, which is pretty cool. Because now I feel, and it's sort of culminating in a bit of a mental breakdown and whatnot that I had a little while ago. And it happens. Like I said, it happens, and I treat them as a sign that I'm ready and in need of evolution. So it's not a case of need for me now because I've studied it. I am a student of all this sort of stuff now, and I forever will be. And I don't really need to talk to anyone now because this is an internal thing for me. It's turned into an internal evolutionary process. Having said that, I do talk to my mental PT, i.e. my doctor, very regularly because this is a particularly strong evolution that I'm going through. But off the back of it, what I've discovered is if all I do, instead of putting so much fucking ridiculous pressure on myself through goals, because I used to be about goals all the time, and this comes full circle to my point around, being content in one's own skin, in one's own mindset, mental state, and all that sort of jazz. I've just sort of come to the realization that if I can focus on two things, right, and this is what I'm doing right now. I focus on doing two things every day, just two. One, mental expansion exercise, and one physical expansion exercise. And I'm not talking feeding my fucking guts. Physical expansion in terms of muscle fit, and that's it, right? So beforehand, I used to set these goals that were just fucking stupid. And sometimes I'd set them spontaneously thinking, right, I'm going to go for like 3 runs this week. And then when I only do 1 or 2, like the amount of times, I'm sure some of you could appreciate and relate to this. How many fucking times have you set goals that have ended up making you feel like a failure? And you've only really done that to yourself, right? Shit. So what I've said to myself was, right, I'm going to do 1 physical, 1 mental expansion exercise every single day. And it doesn't matter whether it's a 5-minute thing or an hour thing, whether it's a run or watching a YouTube of something from a philosophical thing that I'm sort of digging down at that one particular point, whether it's I've found some amazing physical circuits on YouTube where you just need a pair of dumbbells and they go for like 20 minutes and they're amazing. If I just do one of those things at some point during the day from a personal KPI point of view, then I'm confident that what will end up happening is they will culminate in a huge amount of change that will result in me being a lot more content in my life. Therefore, making anything that goes on externally a bonus. however big or small that external thing could be. That for me is a different fucking wiring that it's taken me, what, 37 and a half years to get to. And God knows how many tears and fears and fails and all the rest of it, right? And scars, emotionally, physically, or otherwise. So, gang, I want us to really think about that experiment, that experiment where you put the bugs in the jar, and that conditioning thing, right? Where you close the lid on the jar, give them enough space to breathe so they don't just fucking die, and then after a while you take the lid off, and then they become conditioned to being within that jar and not feeling like they can get out of that jar, even though they perfectly could. You're gonna have to. I think you guys. I would love for some of you to just ponder that for a couple of moments and think about how much you are doing that to yourselves right now, utilizing the vast array of excuses that are being brought to us on a silver platter. Need to have a think about that, gang. I am. And I was fucking using plenty of excuses that were just bollocks. It was just real bollocks as to why I'm not improving myself on a regular basis. Right? Have a think about that, gang. I really want people to start having a conversation around this because it's really important. Really, really important, because if I'm sure, hopefully, some of you are starting to think about what you want to achieve and back end of this year and beyond, right? Hopefully, I'm sure some of you are. But have a think about how true those goals are to who you actually want to end up being. And it ties in. We had a conversation with the Combine Franchise Services Networks, Central 21 Better Homes and Gardens, that I'm having lots of fun with at the minute. With Jay Xavier, and it was an amazing little jam that he and I had. I really appreciate it. It was the first time I had a chance to have a proper jam session with him in terms of thoughts and leadership, thought leadership, and all that sort of stuff in an environment like where people are watching and stuff. And what he said was, it really needs to be, any goals, they're all just bullshit. They're all just egoic, I think he called them, which I think is amazing. It's an amazing little term for that. Egoic goals, if they aren't truly aligned with who you are, what you want your purpose to be, and that sort of stuff. I thought that was wicked. I thought that was really, really cool. So have a think about that, gang, because I certainly am. And I think you guys should all do that too. Because fuck, if what's gone on hasn't shaken you into even remotely thinking about this shit, then you're either kidding yourself or you're fucking in a real bad space and you don't realize it. Or you're one of those bugs that's been conditioned to the point where you don't realize that lid from your life has been taken off, and and this sounds real fucking cliche, right? But the sky is actually the limit. Even with all this fucking bollocks going on, I'm not having a bar of it when people tell me I can't do this because of the government. I can't do this because of that. Well, fuck, take a look around. There's plenty of people fucking winning. Why can't it be you? Why can't you be one of them? How much of what you're banging on about is legit, and how much of it is victim mentality? Sounds harsh, but we're getting to that point where we're going to need to start being fucking harsh with ourselves about and around certain things. For me, it was the physical side. Like, it was the physical side. Stupidly unfit. So I've got a grip of it. But the thing is, it's not even a motivation. It is very much nice. Dude, my afro is very real. I bet it is, mate. I bet it is. Mine blew off in the wind, look, can you tell? Because some of it's bullshit. I feel now that for me, that physical and mental expansion thing, is something that I really like. I really like doing, and it's for me, and it's right. It feels right in every single which way. If I don't get a physical exercise done by the end of the day, by the end of this, so like for example, tonight I'm going to finish this, and then I'm gonna chill with Flick for a bit, and then give myself a little bit of time to have a think and a breathe. I'm going to write an article on that I've been asked to do around leadership, and then I'm going to go into the shed and do a weight circuit at whatever time that is. And I'm really looking forward to that last bit of the day. Bit of time with Flame, bit of time doing some mind expansion, which will sort of coincide with some productivity, and then go and pump some weights for a little bit before I go to bed. Now, I'm not recommending that for everybody. For me, it's fucking cool. I like it. I'm kind of running to my game. No one else's. And that's awesome. And plenty of you people can do that as well. But you got to start thinking about it, though. That's the thing. Instead of just claiming boredom as an excuse for doing something stupid, or claiming being locked in as an excuse for doing something stupid, or not doing something that you could be doing. Right? Have a think about that, team. I'm going to bring this effort to an end on that note. Have a think about those bugs in that jar and realize the lid is always being off that jar and you can get out of it. You just got to look up. All right. I wonder if that helped. Hopefully that helped one or two people. Hopefully. Dave Stewart, he's a great guy. Dude, my afro is very real. Lol, call them out. I'm not going to call them out, mate. I'm not going to call them out just yet. I will in due course. But don't worry, I will. I'm being told that I'm going to. So I'm like, right, sweet. Time to go to Bunnings, buy some timber, build a bridge, and get over it all. Maxine, with a little caveat on that. Like I said, I'm not going to be a complete fucking naive arsehole and say that some of the shit that's gone on isn't real, because it really fucking is. But we've got to acknowledge, we've got to make that distinction. What's legit and what's bollocks? And the stuff that's bollocks, we need to address ASAP. Because when everything starts clicking back into gear, that's going to be a fucking hard habit to break when everything starts picking up pace in a serious way again from a national point of view. It's going to be really fucking hard to break that one. So I'd do it now. All right, team. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, I hope you found some degree of helpfulness out of this. If for nothing else, bit of energy from yours truly. I've got plenty of it to kick around, so you're more than welcome to grab a little bit. Team, make sure, for the love of God, stay safe, stay healthy. Most importantly, stay happy. Andy here, the professional human, signing out in partnership with Anywhere Auctions. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving us your attention. Love you all. See you Friday, 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. NZT, 8:30 South Australia, and 7 o'clock over in Western Australia. Jen, hey Andy, thanks for tonight. I'm a super positive person and haven't let much get to me until this last week. This has snapped me back. Thank you. You are more than welcome. Take it easy, team. Love you all. Speak to you soon. See you Friday.